jobbra kell menni.
Turn the corner right here, turn left, exit the building, and you'll be right at the ticket center.
All right, thank you. Wait, this way. Going this way. It's alive. We are, Richard.
Néztünk, ha innen jöttünk volna, de mégsem. Innen jöttünk. Itt a hídról.
Use up the roll of film.
Did you make me get
Yo traigo los
Your class is,
Oh, nice.
Oh, just a little too small.
almost like a space letter.
That's the IMAX movie. Yeah. Well, no, I don't think we're not seeing it.
Applying this space-age technology to develop a thorough scanning system for tires. This state-of-the-art equipment has given tire engineers a clear picture of where heat originates in the tire. With this knowledge, we are able to use existing space technology for new applications. will also provide
Around the country, a network of specialists located in NASA field centers and university-based industrial application centers provide a link between developers of various NASA technologies and those who want to apply such technologies. If you are interested, contact the field center nearest you.
Theater exits over there. Go walk around.
£1,000. For a launch, it was located about 410 feet above the ground, near the top of the umbilical tower on the mobile launcher. At the outer end of the access arm is a small white room nestled against the Apollo command module. All of the astronauts who flew on Apollo, Skylab, a total of 9 arms. In addition to providing access to the spacecraft, they connected propellant, electrical, pneumatic, and instrumentation ground supply lines to the stages of the Saturn rocket and the Apollo spacecraft. They also provided access for technicians to the interior of the rocket.
Mission control at Johnson Space Center, Texas takes over. The slowest part before orbiters are down. Launch time is just hours away now. The 529,000 gallons of sub-zero liquid oxygen and hydrogen are loaded into propellant tanks. 2 hours.
this side.
By the window, right?
Sure, go ahead. I'm going to come
Avec distance à beaucoup tout
May I welcome all of you this afternoon to the Kennedy Space Center, operated by...
Since Earth began, gravity has ruled our existence. Yet in this century alone, light and space technologies have broken the bonds of gravity to throw open a doorway to the moon. The 3-day flights to the moon were made by 9 Apollo crews aboard Apollo Command Service modules. The Command Service module on display here is identical to those used on all lunar missions. This is actual flight hardware, real equipment, which could have been flown to the moon. The cone-shaped front-end section is the command module. It provided living and working space for the 3-man crew during their half-million-mile round trip. The Apollo crew worked in comfortable clothing, moving freely within the spaceship. The service module is just behind the cone-shaped command module. It contained the life support systems, electrical, communications, and propulsion. It carried the engine and fuel for the return trip to Earth. The lunar module is just as you'd see it on the moon. The lower half of the module is the descent stage. Its engine was used to control the landing on the moon. That gold-colored foil around the lower section is mylar. It's a tough insulation against daytime heat that would boil water instantly. The upper half of the lunar module is the air support the weight of a fully spacesuited astronaut on Earth. But in lunar gravity, a 200-pound Earthman would only weigh a little over 30 pounds. Neil Armstrong was the first to use the lunar module ladder on the first moon landing, July 20th, 1969. Base scan. The instruments measured moon quakes, temperature variations, and cosmic particles hitting the moon. Scientific equipment at each base camp was powered by a nuclear electric generator. Data was relayed to Earth for years before the equipment was turned off from Earth. It can be turned on again whenever more information is needed. The large umbrella-shaped antenna acted as a transmitting and receiving relay station between mission control on Earth and men at work on the lunar surface. In order to work on the moon, each astronaut was outfitted in a heavy spacesuit with life support systems in his backpack. Without that suit, a man could never survive the vacuum of space, deadly solar radiation, and temperatures in hundreds of degrees. Moving about in heavy spacesuits was restrictive, but the lower lunar gravity was helpful. At the right of the moon base exhibit, a lunar rover vehicle is being deployed. Lunar rover vehicles were used by 3 Apollo crews to drive over the moon's surface. With battery-powered 4-wheel drive, the rover allowed the astronauts to travel several miles from their base camp. Top speed was about 9 miles an hour.
See, when he hits the craters and starts bouncing is when he gets his rooster tail. And here, really fast it. He's got about 2 wheels on the ground. It's a big rooster tail out of all 4 wheels. And as he turns, he skids and back ends and breaks loose just like on snow. Then I'll tell you, he's never seen a driver like this.
The rover also... American astronauts went to the moon in peace for all mankind.
Milyen plakás.
Until the closing years of the United States' second century, the moon was far beyond man's grasp. It was as untouchable, as unassailable as it had been at the beginning of recorded time. The Apollo Saturn V was the ingenious instrument which would bridge the void. Standing 36 stories tall and with a fiery breath producing 180 million horsepower, this massive machine was the product of the combined imaginations, talents, and skills of a determined people. It was created as a response to a call to yield to no nation our leadership in science, technology, and the ability to sail this new ocean of space.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
Putting Americans on the moon was a national effort. More than 400,000 Americans were directly involved in the Apollo. They labored in industrial complexes, universities, and NASA centers, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the Gulf of Mexico to the Canadian border. It was to the Kennedy Space Center that the nation's rivers of technology would flow, to meet and to merge, to expose their cargo to a test by fire. It is here that creation ends. It is here that this dormant machine, 15 million separate parts, is given birth for a brief but purposeful life, to carry men where no man has gone before. An Apollo Saturn launch countdown for a lunar mission is underway. You are in the fire room, containing the control and monitoring equipment for the most powerful space vehicle ever launched. The countdown is forward at T-minus 3 minutes and 15 seconds. 3 hours ago, the astronaut crew left their quarters and moved to the launch pad. They are now inside the spacecraft, waiting for the countdown to be picked up. The display board on your right indicates that NASA's worldwide tracking network is ready for launch. The network includes ground stations, tracking chips, and specially instrumented aircraft. The terminal count sequence board on your left shows the present status of the launch vehicle. When the countdown is resumed, this board will display the final 3 minutes, 7 seconds of launch activity. The test supervisor is polling his test conductors.
CPSC, verify go for launch. SRO, verify go for launch. SRO, verify go for launch. Element, verify go for launch. Element, go for launch. DLO, verify go for launch. DLO, go for launch. City test conference.
Attention all personnel, the countdown clock will start on my mark at T-minus 3 minutes and 15 seconds. 3, 2, 1, mark. T-minus 3 minutes and 15 seconds and counting.
Minus 3:10.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We are go for Apollo 11. Firing command coming in now. We're on an automatic sequence as the master computer supervises hundreds of events occurring over these last few minutes. We are go with all elements of the mission at this time.
Apollo 11, this is the launch operations manager. The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Thank you very much. No big difference.
And then the final checks between several key members of the crew here in the control center and the astronauts. Launch operations manager Paul Downey, all 11 liftoff. All the second stage tanks now pressurized. 35 seconds and counting. We are still go with Apollo 11. 30 seconds and counting. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. exploration of the solar system. 5 more crews would follow as Apollo astronauts explored this alien world. Apollo's achievements represent a peak in mankind's technological development. But Apollo also brought us a new realization of the smallness and fragility of our Earth as a harbor of life for the entire human race. Technology acquired from the space program has been pressed into service in virtually every aspect of man's life on Earth. In clearing the way for bold new steps into space to benefit all mankind, Apollo was the end of the beginning and a proud prologue.
The smaller hangar-like building to the left of the VAB is the Orbiter Processing Facility. There are 2 identical processing bays inside this 96-foot tall structure. After a space flight, the Space Shuttle Orbiter is brought into one of these bays and ready for its next mission. Any remaining fuel is drained, and all fuel lines, pumps, and engines are cleaned and carefully checked. Cargo and experiment packages from the previous flight are removed here, and new ones for an upcoming mission are installed. Some payloads, however, are put in the orbiter when it is on the launch pad. After the orbiter has completed its checkout in the Orbiter Processing Facility, it is essentially ready to fly. The spaceship is then towed to the VAB, where it is attached to its booster set and external tank.
Now as we make our way around the building, you'll hear about the 2 transporters, the vehicles that lift and carry the shuttle from the building to the launch site. However, we will not be able to see them now. They have been moved. We'll see one of them in a few minutes on the far side.
To the right, you can see a crawler transporter used to move the space shuttle and its mobile launch platform. 8 moving tracks with 57 cleats on each. Each cleat weighs 1 ton. Propulsion is provided by 2 large diesel engines, which power electric motors, which turn the treads. Maximum speed is 1 mile per hour with the space shuttle atop, and 2 miles per hour unloaded. A hydraulic jacking system can vary the height of the deck at either or both ends of the vehicle as much as 6 feet, allowing the transporter's load to be kept level as it moves up the 5-degree incline to the launch pad. The transporter requires an operating crew of about 20 engineers and technicians. The driver sits in a glass-enclosed cab facing the direction of travel.
Now ahead of us to the right front in the distance where you see that large gray steel structure, that's one of the
which the space shuttle begins its journey. These launch platforms are carried into the VAB by the crawler transporter, where the solid rocket boosters, external fuel tank, and orbiter are placed on top with giant cranes. The crawler transporter then moves the launch platforms and its flight hardware to the pad. As we drive by the mobile launch platform, please take note of the 3 openings in the center of the structure. They serve as flame chutes for the shuttle at liftoff. The 2 rectangular-shaped openings are for the flames of the solid rocket boosters, and the square one is for the shuttle's 3 main engines.
Now as we approach closer to this platform, you'll have a better view. This is the platform that the Columbia was launched from in December. You won't be able to see those openings because within the last hour, one of the big transporters has moved underneath it. Soon it will lift it up to move it away. That open areaway underneath it is 22 feet high. As you can see, the transporter drives right under it so we can lift it off these pedestals. After it's refurbished, it's taken into the building, the shuttle assembled in the vertical position, and from here the transporter will carry the entire structure with the shuttle on it to the launch pads. Each one of these transporters has 8 tractor treads that are 10 feet tall and 40 feet long. 57 links in each one of those treads. Each link is 7.5 feet wide and weighs 2,000 pounds. The entire vehicle weighs 6 million pounds. A driver's cab on both the front and the rear. They usually travel forward and backward. However, they can turn around in a radius of about 5,500 feet. Two diesel engines produce 5,000 horsepower. These turn generators to provide electricity for 16 electric motors to turn the tractor treads. We have 3 of these platforms. The other 2 are inside of the assembly building: transporter, launch platform, and shuttle. As we continue making our way around the building, now you can see the 2 high bay doors on the eastern side. Again, they're inside of the dark gray outlines. And just outside of the door on the right, you'll see the other transporter. Behind that door, standing vertically on one of these platforms, is the shuttle Atlantis, all put together, soon ready to go out to the launch pad. Beginning just after midnight tonight, this transporter will go in the building, lift up the platform with the Atlantis on it, and we'll take it to the launch pad. When it arrives at the pad, it'll undergo preparation for launch, April the 4th. Still on our right ahead of us, we'll tell you about that white building attached to the assembly building.
On your right, adjacent to the Vechicle Assembly Building, is a horizontal structure called the Launch Control Center. This is considered the nerve center of the entire Launch Complex 39. Behind the black vertical louvers at the top of the building,
131 feet wide, the transporter uses the entire road. First, we'll make our way to pad B, which is now ahead of us in the distance. We'll pass it on our left. In a few minutes, we'll drive around to the far side of
pad. This represents a 5% incline, which is negotiated by the huge crawler transporter as it makes its way toward the surface, carrying the space shuttle. The pad surface is 42 feet above the bottom of the flame trench. The service towers on the pad provide access to the shuttle and have connections for fuel, electric power, and communications. Because of the large number of lightning strikes in this part of Florida, a white fiberglass lightning mast stands sentry atop the tower, rising 347 feet above the surface.
It was launched here at Pad B this past December 2nd. Yet, where we'll stop is a camera pad where cameras are placed to photograph the launches.
Raised, in other words, it keeps it level at all the levels that go up that is swimming how they did that. Pick it up. There's scientists from the University of Rochester kept it down as the but then it's same principle here. We were here from the use of right in. They must have a lot of restrictions. We can't even anything. And this whole year is closed for 30 days. Nobody can come out here.
I took one picture that way.
Sorry.
wall surfaces are lined with fire brick, which can withstand temperatures up to 3,000 degrees. Also located in the flame trench is a steel flame deflector, which distributes the heat and flame away from the pad.
When the transporter comes out here, carrying the launch platform and the shuttle, it will drive to the top of the pad, straddles the trench, places the platform next to the service tower, then the transporter will move away.
The fuel and oxidizer loaded into the external tank for use by the main engines of the orbiter. Since the launch pad is a storage area for these and other exotic fuels, the entire area is fenced and carefully guarded.
To the right of the pad, you see the water tank. At liftoff, that tank releases 300,000 gallons of water in 20 seconds. The water will flood the entire pad area. This is done to protect the equipment from the heat generated by the rocket's engines and also to keep the noise level down. And if you have watched one of those shuttle launches on television, most of that huge cloud of smoke you saw was steam. This was caused when the water came in contact with the hot engine's exhaust. These two pads are almost identical, and they're the largest launch pads here at the center. They're 42 feet thick, and there's over 68,000 cubic yards of concrete in each one, 5,000 tons of structural steel. Just ahead of us, here's the base of the pad. Once more, you'll see the gravel road. The transporter will drive up the incline. It's done to keep the shuttle level at all times. The river stone acts as a cushion for the treads of the transporter. So when the transporter moves along the road, carrying the shuttle to the pad, this road has to support an 11 million pound load. It must be very firm indeed. Another close look at those high bay doors. Since we passed the building earlier, the doors are now open at the bottom, and as we approach closer, if you look closely, you may be able to see part of the shuttle Atlantis standing in a vertical position. Your attention to our left.
Ahead, on the left, are the press facilities used by the news media to report launches from Complex 39. Up to 3,000 reporters and photographers from around the world have been here to cover an Apollo or Space Shuttle launch. The press site is 3.5 miles from the launch pads. It is the closest point from which a shuttle launch can be viewed.
Next, ahead on the right, on display, the Saturn V rocket stopped so you can leave the bus and have a good look and make photographs. If you'd like to walk around it, you may, but I will ask that you please stay inside of the guardrail area. Please do not cross the roads to make photographs. Camera stop. If you would like to make photos, please watch your step and remember bus number 3. Smoking is permitted off the bus.
For your safety and security, stay with your group. You are not permitted to go outside of the immediate tour stop area.
minutes, workhorse, and what a performer. Saturn V rockets had a 100% success record in sending American astronauts to explore the moon, our nearest neighbor in space. And now, if you will move on to the next stage of the display, you will hear more about the Apollo Saturn V launch vehicle. Saturn V, the largest rocket ever built, was designed specifically to send Apollo spacecraft to the moon. In front of you is the first of 3 stages, which connect end to end to become the launch vehicle. Inside of this huge cylinder are 2 huge tanks to hold the propellant. One tank would contain the fuel known as RP1, or refined kerosene. The oxidizer tank would carry liquid oxygen. Together, tanks hold nearly 500,000 gallons. At liftoff, 5 huge F-1 rocket engines you see on the end would be burning the propellant mixture to bring 15,000 gallons per second. This is required to produce the more than 7.5 million pounds of upward thrust necessary for liftoff of the entire launch vehicle and its spacecraft payload. In just 2.5 minutes, this rocket stage would have boosted the entire vehicle to an altitude of 20 miles, a speed of over 6,000 miles per hour. What a workhorse and what a performer. The Saturn V rockets had a 100% success record in sending American astronauts to explore the moon, our nearest neighbor in space. And now, if you will move on to the next stage of the display, you will hear more about the Apollo Saturn V launch vehicle.
Whatever looks like chances are your refrigerator or freezer at home has the same insulating material, a type of plastic foam material. Like the Saturn V first stage, the second stage had a 100% success record. Not bad, when you consider it used the most powerful propellants available. And now, if you will move on to the next stage of the display, you will hear more about the Apollo Saturn V launch vehicle. Yeah, right. Try and find it.
When mixed with the liquid oxygen oxidizer, this combination basic mathematical consensus has now been used in the design and production of the main engines for the Space Shuttle rocket. Here again, in all flight, rocket engineers report their task
passed without a fail. Now, we will move on to the next stage of the display. You will hear more about the Apollo Saturn V launch vehicle. Exciting days, sending men to the moon. Truly an awesome feat of achievement. Saturn V rockets had a 100% success record in sending American astronauts to explore the moon, our nearest neighbor in space.